Hi everyone, my name is Abby Dittmann. I'm going to be presenting my honors thesis on the effects of using the TWA strategy to improve reading comprehension. So first I'm going to go over my rationale, why I decided to research TWA, the background on SRSD and TWA, going to go through my methods, and then review my discussion. So why did I research TWA? So I am a future teacher going into elementary education. I'm getting my K through 6 teaching licensure here at Meredith. And when I decided to begin research, I wanted to focus on reading. So I examined the National Assessment of Educational Progress Reading Comprehension Report Card and saw that the reading comprehension levels for the nation as well as North Carolina were very low. And I also examined the writing comprehension scores, and there were a very low percentage of students who were proficient in writing based on the NAEP scores. And also TWA can improve both reading comprehension and writing comprehension. So it's kind of a two-in-one benefit as to why I wanted to research this, because schools now test, included in the reading comprehension test, is writing assessment, including retail, which TWA can greatly benefit. So this is just my rationale for my research. So this, on the left, we see the nation scores, and on the right, we see North Carolina. Those are both labeled. My focal year was 2022. We see the scores for that are both 216 for the nation and for North Carolina. So if we see an asterisk next to the number, that means that it's significantly different from 2022. And in this case, that significant difference happened to be a decrease of the scores for the reading comprehension. And then if we see the box on the right of the screen, that is the NAEP achievement level scores. So first there's NAEP advanced score, which is 268. Our scores for the nation in North Carolina are nowhere close to that number, as well as proficient 238, nowhere close to that. So we are in the NAEP basic achievement level. So that is a score of 208. So we are just a little bit above that in the nation and in North Carolina. The next, we see the writing comprehension scores. So we see on the left side of 0, that is students who are in the basic level, a percent of students. So we see majority of the students for the nation are basic, very few are proficient, even smaller amount are advanced for writing comprehension. So what is SRSD? So SRSD is the umbrella that TWA, the model that I researched, happened to fall under. So SRSD stands for Student Regulated Strategy Development. So it is these strategies that are SRSD, they allow children to gain self-confidence because it encourages them to take responsibility for their learning and for their coursework. So because of that self-regulation piece of SRSD, it encourages students to be more independent. And when our students take responsibility for their own learning, they are more likely to be more successful in their work. So I'm going to just do an overview of the SRSD procedure. So first we have the 6 stages of instruction, which that's when we have the students developing background knowledge on the model, then discussing the strategy with the students, what they're actually going to be doing with the model. Next, we model the strategy for them, encourage them to memorize the strategy, and then we support the strategy with any scaffolding they might need. And then lastly, there's independent performance with the strategy. The next, we have the 4 procedures for self-regulation. So first we set goals with the student, then self-monitoring, and then self-instruction, which includes self-speech, and lastly, self-reinforcement. So what is TWA, the actual strategy that I chose to research? So TWA, like I had said earlier, is an SRSD tool. So TWA is thinking before reading, while reading, and after reading. A strategy that students use when they're reading, typically with content-based reading passages. So my methods. So first I started with a pre-test assessment of the students' reading comprehension. The students read a passage called Volcanoes and then completed the retail assessment, which I will show on the next slide. The next, we did lesson 1, which was introducing TWA. Lesson 2 was modeling TWA. So beginning the mastery of TWA with the students. Then next we did a midway test where the students read a passage called Dumb and completed the retail assessment again. Then lesson 3 was group collaborative practice. That's a big aspect of TWA. In order for them to master it, they do need to work with peers. And then 4th, more peer practice. 5, I then faded instructional supports of TWA, so they became more independent on it. And then lesson 6 is independence and generalization, so using it in that day-to-day classroom if they can. And then lastly, a post-test to assess where they have grown since using this model in their reading comprehension. So this is just an example of the retail assessment. This happened to be for the pretest, volcanoes. So we see in the bold are 5 different main ideas. So after they read a passage, I ask them to retell what they remembered from the passage. So I check off if they recalled any of these 5 main ideas. So that's the score in the bottom right corner in the top row. And then next, I asked them to recall certain details within those main ideas. And for this passage, there happened to be 24 main details that we wanted them to focus on. So we give them then a score of how many details they recalled out of 24, and then we total up out of 29 to get the total percentage. So I hypothesized that the TWA reading strategy would improve content-based reading comprehension in the 2 fifth grade students I was working with. So my results of the assessments I was doing. First, with the first assessment, the student A got a score of 51%. Student B had a score of 25%. And then after we introduced TWA and modeled it, we then saw an increase in both students. So student A in their second assessment increased to a score of 71%, and student B increased to a score of 57%. So my discussion, some limitations of my research where I did have an insufficient sample size. I was only working with 2 students in my 5th grade classroom where I have my placement. And they only used this strategy when I would pull them out. They weren't using it elsewhere. And also we did have certain time restraints because they cannot be with me for a full day or an extended period of time. Some implications of this. So my results suggest that using a structured writing about reading strategy, TWA, can be beneficial to retail performance, which is what I was assessing. Of all learners, but especially those with disabilities. So my 2 students were both below average in their reading comprehension scores. So that is why I chose to work with them in order to improve that. And my directions for future research, my teaching strategy, I would use it on a whole class in order to students to be more motivated and using that more day to day and be more successful in the strategy. I thought that would be really interesting. And also using the strategy in lower grades. Like I said, I did use it in 5th grade. So I think it'd be really interesting to do it in 2nd grade to determine the accuracy of it. And that is all I have. Thank you.